Hi, Henry Cameron. Hope you're doing well. Love to see you again. Hi,
Hey,
Alan.
love,
Love
good
to
to
see
see
you.
you.
Hello. Hi, Katrina. Hope you're doing well. Hello. Okay, so you know how this starts. While we're waiting for the room for more people to come in, I don't know how many people will come in today. It's a gorgeous day in England, and you know what the English are like. As soon as the sun out, the work stops. We've got to go out into the garden. We've got to have a barbecue. We've got to do all of those things. So I
It's
don't know how.
raining in Hampshire, so stop bragging.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's interesting. I thought we were getting wall-to-wall sunshine all over the UK. Well, okay, maybe not up in Scotland or the Northern Ireland sometimes, but certainly in England. Oh, I didn't know that. We've got a few more people coming in. So, as you know, what I'd like to do to start off is if you can just put into the chat what you'd like to gain from today's session. So today, we're talking about how to use ChatGPT for book editing. Hello, Claire. Lovely to see you. I think we've got Heather on the way as well. But I always love to know what you would like to gain from this session, because then I can make sure that we cover it. If I don't cover it in my presentation, I can discuss it in the Q&A. And now I make sure that I'm not just taking up your valuable time for the sake of it. You're actually getting something from this. And that's always my goal. Whenever you turn up to this, I mean, well, all of you have been here before, but whether you're new or whether you've come here many times before, I want you to feel that you get something out of this every single time you show up. So just go into the chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from today's session. Heather should be coming in, I think, now. Yes, so just, yep, go into the chat and let me know what you'd like to gain from today's session. And that way, that gives me a bit of a steer. I would know straight away, oh, I'm already going to be answering this. Or if it's not something I'm going to answer, I will make sure I do my best to answer it in the Q&A portion of the forum. So go into the chat now. Got a couple of people who keep coming into the waiting room and then disappearing. I wonder if they're having some internet issues. That could be it. Okay. Let them in. Let them in. There's always a note taker that wants to come in, but I don't even know who this note taker belongs to. So let me kick the note taker out if the human being doesn't come with them. Hello, Heather. Love
Hey,
it.
Miss Ali, how are you?
I love
Lovely.
your background.
Thank you very much.
They're awesome. Where did you get those from?
I mean, the bizarre thing, this was literally not, this was not planned. These were actually on the wall in this place before my desk ended up being here. I bought them in Brighton many years ago at the Brighton Art Fair. And the wonderful thing, it's a project that works with adults with learning difficulties. And everybody, and obviously using art therapy. And the great thing is that everybody who has a different level of skill. So for some people, they can just do plain color. Some people do fine detail. So it's a collaborative artwork, and you know me well enough to know collaboration, big word in
You're
my life.
all about collaboration, Heather. I know.
And it's literally, it's my corporate colors. It's all about coffee and cake. I mean, kind of what's
It
not
just
to like.
it's almost like it was made for you. It
It was
almost
made
feels
for me, and
bespoke, and yet it wasn't.
I've had it, oh God, 12 years. And I just bought
Love
it,
it.
and it's a lovely talking point. But yeah, it was literally, it was
I
there
love it.
on the
As soon as I
table.
saw it, I was like, wow, look at those colors. And I can see like a teapot there as well, a kettle. I love it. Absolutely love
Got
it.
everything.
Fantastic. I would just, the only problem is if I was in that room, I wouldn't get any work done because I'd just be, it's one of those images of the ones that you just want to keep staring at and just seeing
That's
more
why it's behind
detail.
me.
Yeah,
I've got
love it.
inspirational stuff on that side of the room, on top of the
Good
fireplace.
idea. Otherwise, you just spend all of your day just staring at
Basically,
those.
will it make the boat go faster? Very opposite me.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, well, let's get started. We have a couple of people having internet issues. They keep coming into my waiting room and then disappearing. So don't really know what's going on, but hopefully they will get in at some point. Let's get started, though. I don't want to keep you guys waiting for too long. Okay, so let me just share my screen first of all. Where are we? Share. Okay, so can you all see my screen first of all? Yes, excellent. I think, oh, you guys are so good. You guys know that you come here. See, I was going to ask you to put yourself on mute, but you're already on mute, which is wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. So let me just go to slideshow from beginning. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. Okay, So you've all been here before. I don't think we've got anybody new here. You've all been here before. This is our agenda. It's always in two parts. Oh, we've got Stanley who's just about to come in. We've got two parts. So the first part, we talk about the topic of the day. So today we're talking about book editing, ChatGPT prompts that can save time, energy, and money. However, I'm going to give you two caveats here. First of all, I say book editing because that's all I do. You know, I help people write and publish and market books. That's what I do. So I talk about book editing a lot, but you'll find a lot of these prompts you can use for anything. So whether you're writing a LinkedIn article, a blog post, a Facebook post, a page on your website, it really doesn't matter. I talk about books because that's all I seem to, you know, you cut me open and you'll see books coming out of my veins. That's just who I am. However, that doesn't mean what I'm giving you is just to be used on books. You can use this on any written content. And I urge you to start using this on any written content because it will save you a lot of time and a lot of energy, which of course equals money. The other thing I'll say is when I say ChatGPT, I say ChatGPT only because that is the most well-known. If you're using another LLM, that's large language models for people who don't know. That's what, if you think about what ChatGPT, if you have to describe what kind of technology it is, it's called LLM, which is large language model. And basically large language models are these types of technology that is able to generate content for you, so long as you give them the right prompts. The most famous of them is ChatGPT, because they're the ones who first came out with it back in November 2022, and everyone went, oh my God, AI. However, since then, there's been several more. I use Gemini quite a lot, which is Google's version. I've started to use something called Claude, which is also quite good. I'm finding specifically with books, Claude seems to beat ChatGPT for accuracy and tone and voice. So that's another one. Things I haven't used is one called Mistral, which is a French company. And the reason that is becoming popular is, you know what, as Europeans are like, we get a little bit, you know, skeptical about the Americans, and we worry about them. And do they have the same safety concerns as we do? Henry Cameron is aghast with horror. But, you know, as Europeans are not as, you know, we worry sometimes. So there's some people are moving over to Mistral because it's French owned, and somehow there's a belief that that is safer. I don't actually know. I think, to be honest, it's all politics more than anything, but there you go. There's another one called Llama. That's Meta or Facebook, Instagram. They've created their own LLM as well. So when I say ChatGPT, I don't want you to think I'm saying use ChatGPT. If you are familiar with another LLM and you prefer it, use that. What I'm going to teach you is not specific to ChatGPT. This is prompt engineering for LLMs. The reason I use ChatGPT everywhere is people just get it. If I said book editing, Gemini prompts, I bet a lot of people are like, what even is that? Or if I said book editing, Llama prompts, people won't even understand what today is about. But I wanted to say that whatever LLM you're using, and even if you're not using it for books, you can use these prompts. And then part two, as you know, my favorite bit, this is why it's a forum. I do get sick of my own voice every so often. So I do like to hear from other people, find out what your thoughts are. You can give me feedback, tell me what you've been up to. We've all been messing around with AI. I think practically everyone at this stage has been messing around with it. So I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback. Okay, so oh, and also, because you've turned up today, feel free to take notes. I know Stanley is a huge note taker, so feel free to take notes, but you don't have to. Don't worry if you miss something. You don't have to worry. You will get this workbook. Well, it's actually just all the prompts that I talk about and a few more that I won't even go over today. Everything is there for you, and you'll get this workbook sent out to you by my awesome assistant, Joycey, who's in the crowd somewhere. She will make sure it's sent out to you tomorrow morning, okay? And also, just to thank you for coming to this event. In fact, let me put this into the chat now, because you'll be able to, let me just give you this. You can pick one of these amazing causes and we will donate on your behalf. And just to let you know, we have smashed the vegan publisher, our team, we made a choice to do 3,500 impacts in 2024. We felt that was going to be a bit of a stretch for us. We really felt it was, but we wanted to give ourselves a goal that would stretch us. So even if we failed, you know, what's that old saying? You know, if shoot for the stars, if you miss, you'll still get the moon. Or well, I probably said that completely wrong, but something like that. So we wanted a target that would stretch us. We've smashed that target. We've gone way past 3,500 already, and it's only August. And that's because of you guys, okay? So thank you so much for supporting us. And please do go on and pick yourself another cause there, and we'll make that donation. In fact, what I might even do is start changing some of the causes that are on that to give you guys more variety of the causes that you'd like to donate to. Okay, so let's come back to here. Okay. So let's get started. So I ran a poll. You know, I'm a huge fan of polls. I love surveying my audience and just getting the temperature of different topics. So I asked them, would you trust ChatGPT to edit your book? 13% of very brave people went, yes, absolutely, I trust them. There are some people who just love this technology. A whopping 61% said no, which is quite interesting. When I ran this poll earlier this year, it was a little bit more, it's quite interesting to see, and I'll probably run this again in a few months' time. It's slowly, the yes is slowly getting higher. The last time I think it was 9% yes, and no was about 68 or 69, or maybe it was 70% nearly. But it's still, you can still see a lot of people are saying no, but the trust is, as the technology, when you get used to it, it's now been, we're coming up to 2 years since as the public, we've been aware of it, you're starting to see more and more confidence in it, but it's still a long way off. 61% say no, 26% say not sure, okay? This is just some of the comments I've had. So Flora says, no, I don't think AI can replace the nuance and human touch of a professional editor. This is why I still have editors. They cost me an arm and a leg. If I could trust ChatGPT or other LLMs to do all the editing, well, definitely, I don't want to get rid of my editors because I love my editors. I've been working with them since 2018, but I also run a business. And if there was a way that technology could do the work of an editor, I'd be crazy not to look at that. And yet I still use my editors because they don't have that human touch. They do need a human being in the loop. Myth says definitely a no. ChatGPT is great with correcting typos and grammatical error, but it's not the best with current facts checking. So I would definitely lower my expectations. That's also true. I do get the feeling that Myth has probably not been aware of any of the latest changes that happen in LLM. A lot of LLMs, including ChatGPT, can now research in real time. That was a real problem a year ago, in that it wasn't able to research something in real time. So basically the training data stopped a year previously. So anything new, it couldn't understand. So it was giving you old data. So therefore it couldn't fact check. However, now, especially if you've got the paid version of various LLMs, they can check in real time. However, having said that, it's still best to have a human being check that, because you don't know where it's finding its stuff from. It's going on the internet. Sadly, anybody can stick whatever they want on the internet. So again, you still do need to check, even though it can check facts, you kind of need to check the checker, if that makes sense. Michelle says, I would use ChatGPT to gain a fresh perspective, but I find myself editing everything that it offers to bring out the human voice. I will come back to that later. And Michelle, when she said that, I think I'd reply back going, I'd love to speak to you and give you some ideas, because it sounds like you're not prompt engineering correctly, because that shouldn't be the case. And I will explain that later. PJ Stevens says AI is supposed to harness its power to augment human capabilities, not replace them. Like I nearly applauded when I saw that comment. I was like, I couldn't have said it better myself. I really couldn't have said it better myself. It's about augmenting human capabilities, not replacing them. I remember when ChatGPT first came out, the public version, bearing in mind, you have to remember ChatGPT didn't come out. A lot of people think it just came out in November 2022. And it's like, the clues in the name, it was ChatGPT 3.5. The name says it all. That means there was at least 3 previous iterations. And if they were doing 0.5 iterations, there were 5 iterations before 3.5. It's just 3.5 was the one that went public. Before that, that was only for a set few people in the know, within the tech community, in Silicon Valley and that sort of thing. It wasn't available to the public. It has been around since, I've been told, 2016, 2017. And machine learning, which is what it's based on, even before that, in fact, 20, 30 years before that. So it's not actually as new as we think. But when it first came out, I remember one of my editors contacting me and getting very worried. And she's saying, well, does that mean you're not going to really need me much anymore now? And she's worried that I wasn't going to give her any more work. I said, that's not what's going to happen. All it's going to do is going to make you more efficient. And it has. She used to take around about 3 weeks to get through I would say 35 to 40,000 word manuscript. Now she's doing it in about 10 days. It's taking her 50% of the time because she's utilizing, she's a real fan of Claude, another LLM similar to ChatGPT. And she's just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can get through more books. I can help more people. I can help more of my clients. This is amazing. So just be aware of that. It's easy to automatically just think, oh, it's going to replace me. I can't speak in 50 years time. Who knows what's going to happen in 50 years time? But in the immediate to near future, I'm talking about 5 to 10 years, I just don't see how it's possible. I just don't see how it's possible. It's only going to augment you. So let me give you a couple of warnings or caveats, okay? So first of all, there's a builder there. In fact, let's go back to this comment. I said I would go back to Michelle's comment. I would use ChatGPT to gain a fresh perspective, but I find myself editing everything that it offers to bring out the human voice. Bless Michelle. I will have a conversation with her. But Michelle is doing what a lot of people do, which is, a bad handyman blames his own tools. Is that always a bad builder? You know what I'm talking about. That's saying that that's what you're doing. When people say the content is robotic, they have to change things, a lot of times they usually say something like, oh, I can tell when someone's used ChatGPT. You can tell from the comments that they leave that it's not real. That's because someone is using something that you don't know how to use fully. I always think it's a bit like a 13-year-old trying to drive a car. They can probably just about get started, but they're going to keep stalling, and it's not going to be a smooth ride. It's the same thing. Driving takes a few years for you to get really good at it, and you go, okay, I can do this now in my sleep. It's the same thing with any technology. So be wary, because when people, I don't want to say anything bad about them. They just don't know any different. You'll get a lot of people say, oh, yes, but it doesn't sound right, or I can tell when someone's using ChatGPT. Well, the reason you can tell is because that person doesn't know how to use it correctly. You always need a human in the loop. Always need a human in the loop. In fact, let me just actually explain this a little bit more, just so you understand. I'm on the paid version of ChatGPT. Don't worry, today I'm going to show you on my free version, because I don't like demonstrating on the paid version, because then I'm always telling people you have to go and get the paid version to do what I teach. And my goal is to help as many people as possible without them having to pay anything upfront. And then if they need more help, whether that's with my coaching, my programs, or they need to go upgrade on ChatGPT, then that is a decision that they can make. But I want to help as many people as possible without asking them to pay for things straight away. So I will show you on my free account on ChatGPT, but I have an account that's a paid version on ChatGPT. And what's brilliant about the paid version is you can actually get it to go and research your website. You can get it to research your social media profiles and your posts. You can get it to even start listening to the podcasts that you've been on. So if you do your own podcasts or do events like this, or you've been on other people's podcasts, you can feed that context into ChatGPT so that when you get it to write whatever you want it to write, it has that context. So therefore, when Michelle says, I find myself editing everything that it offers to bring out the human voice, you know that is someone who doesn't understand you can actually do that. And that is why. And now before you say, well, hang on a minute, what if I don't want to pay for ChatGPT? That means I won't be able to feed it context like that. No, you won't be able to. That is that's part of the paid version, is to be able to feed an LLM that kind of context. However, even on the free version, you just need to give it context every single time. So instead of just saying, hey, write me an email, you need to say, who are you? This is what you're wanting to get from this. This is your audience. These are your points. This is what you're wanting to get from this content. Because remember, every content, you're wanting something to happen. Whether it's a social media content, you want people to share, or you want people to comment. Whether it's a blog post, you want people to save it or move on to another blog article. Every piece of content that you make in your business, you're not just writing it for your health. You're writing it because you want it to do something for your business, whether that's create visibility, awareness, generate leads, make a sale, whatever it is, you want it to do something for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be creating it. You need to give ChatGPT or any LLM that context. So even on the free version, it can sound very, very human if you give it context. The only difference with the paid version is that the reason I like the paid version, amongst many other reasons, is that I can feed it context once. I now don't need to feed it context again and again. It knows me. It knows who I am. It knows my business. It knows who my core target audience is. I don't have to keep giving it context. Whereas on the free version, I would have to keep giving it context because it eventually forgets and you have to do it again. So I hope that makes sense. And the other thing is you always have to have the human in the loop. Even with all the context that I've given ChatGPT, because I'm on the paid version, I still don't just let it run riot. I still read through what it's created and I still tweak bits here and there. But I'm finding I don't need to tweak much at all. I probably need to tweak, I don't know, 15% of something. The rest of it is like, damn, that actually sounds like me. It's got my voice. It's a little bit scary, I must say. It's like, wow, there's like this whole AI and it's actually becoming a little Matali and it actually sounds a bit like me. Even seems to have my sense of humor as well, which I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, but it does. So Buzz, you've got to have the human in the loop here. So let me go through some of my favorite prompts. Well, it's actually, they're not mine. These are my editor's favorite prompts. These are the ones that they're using all the time. And it's just, my God, I'm talking, they've wiped off 50% of their time and energy just by using, I say ChatGPT, but like I said, you can use any LLM. So this is a big one. For some reason, I don't know what it is. When people start writing books, I don't know what it is, honestly. I wish I can point like why this happens, but people suddenly fall back into this very academic, I need to sound important voice. Maybe they feel the gravitas of the situation, like, oh my God, I'm going to become a professionally published author, which is amazing. But then they just sound very stuffy and they don't sound warm and friendly. Yes, you need to sound like an expert in your book. You want people to read your book and go, wow, this person really knows a lot about this subject. They're an expert. They're an authority on this subject. You want them to feel those things. But at the same time, you also want them to feel that you're nice and you're approachable and you're warm and you're someone that they'd like to work with or work together or partner with or invest in, whatever it is. That is not going to happen if you write in a stuffy way. And one of the key ways I see of stuffiness is when you fall into a passive voice. Now, some of you will be aware what a passive voice is, especially someone like Heather who writes a lot, so absolutely knows what passive voice is. But the best way to remember, I always think of a cat. I love my cat, so what can I do? I always think active voices, the cat sat on the mat. Passive voices, the mat was sat on by the cat. Now, you're probably thinking, who the hell would say the mat was sat on by the cat? That's ridiculous. No one would say that. Absolutely, because of talking about short sentence. But when you get longer paragraphs, you'll be amazed how many people fall into a passive voice, which they don't do when they're speaking. Most people speak in the active voice when they're speaking. But as soon as they start typing something, it falls into the passive voice. It's cold, it's unfriendly, it doesn't sound like you. So this is what we can do on ChatGPT. You can put in the prompt, rewrite this paragraph in an active voice. In fact, let me actually just bring ChatGPT up, see if I can do that. Where have we? There you go. There he is. I don't know why I think of LLMs as he. Some people think of them as she. I think of them as he. I don't know why. Okay, so let's actually try that. Let's actually do that. So if I just put in, rewrite this paragraph in an active voice, you can just put this in here. There you go. It's really, now you're probably thinking, well, I could have done that. It wouldn't have taken me all that long. But my editors are literally putting in 1 or 2 pages of a book in one go. By the way, ChatGPT can actually handle I don't think it can handle a whole chapter yet. Well, actually, it depends. It depends on how big your chapters are. But what my editors are doing are sometimes even trying to put in full chapters to see if it works. If the full chapter, if it hangs and it's going and it's not working, then they'll go, okay, we need to cut that chapter in two and see if we put the first bit in, then we can put the second bit in. But they are putting in big chunks of work in there. And I've been told that Claude is really good. It's actually higher than ChatGPT, the amount of information you can stick in one go. So that's why editors, I feel, are moving over to Claude more than ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is still good. You can still put in several pages. And certainly if you're writing a LinkedIn article or a blog post, it should be able to handle that, the entire thing, in one go. And it rewrites in the active voice. Now, of course, remember, human in the loop. You don't just go, okay, and just copy and paste it. Read it through. Have they taken away some of the meaning? Sometimes it happens. So remember, the human still needs to be in the loop. But can you see how much of a time saver this is? Before, my editors had to go through and actually, oh, this is in passive voice, and they had to rewrite it in the active voice. Now they're just getting ChatGPT to do it or another LLM to do it. And then they're reading through and making sure we haven't lost anything. And if they have lost something, they're just putting it back in again. It's cut down their time by more than 50%, just this one prompt. So use it, okay? Because you may not even realize it. You might be surprised. Next time you write something, stick it into ChatGPT and put, rewrite this in an active voice and see how many times you accidentally fell into a passive voice and you didn't even realize. You'll be amazed. When you're in the active voice, you sound friendly, you sound action orientated. There's an energy in the way your words come across. When you're passive, you sound academic, you sound formulaic, and you sound distant and a little bit cold. So you always want to try, as much as you can, stay in the active voice. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So ChatGPT for conciseness, that's a big one for editors, a huge one for editors. People don't have much of an attention span these days. I don't think they ever really did, but it seems to be getting shorter and shorter. So they're not going to thank you for writing a 50,000 word book if 35,000 words could have done. It's not like they're going to appreciate it. If you've got 50,000 words of great stuff, then fine, that's different. But if it could have been done in 35,000 words, you should do it in 35,000 words. So this is another thing that you can do. You can actually you can get ChatGPT or the LLM to rewrite. So let's actually do this. Let's see what happens when we do this one. There we go. Now, I believe, now let's have a read of this. Researchers found that Mediterranean diet reduces PTSD symptoms. They observed that red and processed meat consumption increases PTSD symptoms, while plant-based foods decrease them. See, now I think that's too succinct. So you can, this is actually, by the way, called prompt iteration. You can iterate from here. So I can say, this is too succinct. Expand a little while keeping concise. Let's see what it does. That looks a lot better. That didn't seem to get everything across to this. Let's have a read of this. Researchers delved into the relation between dietary habits and PTSD symptoms. Their study found that an individual following a Mediterranean diet had fewer PTSD symptoms. Notably, they identified a positive link between consuming red and processed meats and PTSD symptoms, while the consumption of plant-based foods was inversely related. Yeah, that was just too succinct. This is a lot better. Research found that individuals following a Mediterranean diet experienced fewer PTSD symptoms. They observed a positive link between consuming red and processed meats and increased PTSD symptoms. While what I don't like is the use of symptoms again and again. In fact, let's actually do that. So, can you use the word symptoms once and then use synonyms? There we go. And we wrote here, without using symptoms, reduced effects. They would, I mean, my editors love this. Before they used to be on thesaurus.com every day going, let me find another word because this person's overused this word. Now it's just like, let ChatGPT figure out what synonyms are and figure out that, and again, you still need the human being in the loop. You're reading through and making sure that, because sometimes they may have picked a synonym there is a synonym, but it's not exactly a synonym. It might be not as strong or as powerful. So you do need that human. And that's why I have my lovely editors. Even though we've got all of these LLMs, I'm not firing any of them anytime soon, because I need that person who's going to read through and go, oh, that's too succinct now. We've lost some meaning there. Oh, the overuse of this word, but let me just see if the synonyms are correct. This is where the human being comes into it. However, it's saving them so much time just to be able to do this sort of thing with text, okay? So I hope you can see how powerful this is. This is a big one. This one, by the way, you can use, in fact, please feel free to use it for anything. If you think about it, if you're writing a blog post, or you're writing a social media post, you want people to opt into something, or you want them to buy something, you definitely want to optimize for persuasiveness. Okay, so that's something you do. I can put this prompt in, make this paragraph more persuasive. So let's put that in and see what it does with it. And it's always interesting to see what it does with it, because you can put the exact same thing in again and it's slightly different. It's never the exact same. So it's always interesting to see what it comes up with. Okay, so let's see how this is made. So it was, eating a healthy diet is important for your overall health and well-being. What's it done here? Eating a healthy diet is crucial for you. So it's actually changing the words, because crucial actually does sound even more important than important does, really, doesn't it? So that's really good. It not only helps you maintain a healthy weight, but also significantly reduces your risk of chronic diseases. Yeah, it's using words like significantly. So it's using adjectives to make it more persuasive. By providing your body with essential nutrients, a balanced diet boosts your energy levels and improves your quality of life. Make a conscious effort to see, yeah, it's more persuasive. Would I use it as it is? No, this is where the human being comes into it. I would say, this is where ChatGPT is good, but it's a double-edged sword. It does start to think for itself, but sometimes it overthinks. This was really all about physical health. That's what this is about. It's now seemed to have brought in energy levels and quality of life. Maybe the author didn't really want to be talking about energy levels at this stage. So this is where our human editor comes in and goes, okay, you've got a little bit too far here with the persuasiveness. We don't really want anything to do with energy levels and quality of life, because we're not talking about that. So they may remove that. Again, this is me showing you how this is not replacing a human being. It's just making them more efficient. But I hope you can see how really cool that is. I use that for loads of things, by the way, guys, like LinkedIn posts, polls. I do that. How do I make this more persuasive? How do I make more people want to comment on this poll? Or how do I make more people want to leave a comment on this post? Use it. It's really, really good. ChatGPT for changing tone of voice. This is a big one. Again, if you find yourself like, oh, this sounds a little bit stuffy, or this, you can rewrite it in a friendly tone. Or it could be the other way. Sometimes maybe you're writing, I don't know, a business plan, and actually you want the other way. You're like, actually, I'm too friendly sometimes. I actually wanted to sound a little bit stuffy, because I think banks prefer a bit of a stuffy tone. You can do the other way around. You can say, rewrite in a more academic voice, or rewrite in a more professional voice. Whatever you want to do, you just have to sit there and think, what is the tone you're wanting to aim for, and then get ChatGPT to rewrite it. I've even got a friend he's a very broad Geordie. For those who don't know, Geordie is the dialect where I live in the northeast of England. He's an extremely broad Geordie. I understand him because I'm from here. Most English people don't understand him. Never mind people from outside the country. Do you know what I mean? He's just got very, very broad, and he's writing a book with me at the moment. And some of you will know, I advocate people to actually dictate their books. And he is really worried, because he's like, I don't think anyone will understand me. Do you know what I mean? I was like, no, dictate your book. And then my editors are trained to put things into an LLM and we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. But this is what, for him, we might say, rewrite in a more, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, rewrite in a more professional voice. Because he does talk like he's going to the pub all the time. You won't mind me saying that. He just sounds like that, which is great. When you meet him, he's just this big teddy bear and you want to love him straight away. But when you're writing a professional book and he's wanting to work with, well, he is a coach, and he works with small to medium-sized business owners, they expect they want friendly, but they still want professional. He might be a little bit too friendly. So we would probably do rewrite in a professional voice. But let's do this. Let's see this prompt and see what happens when we put it into ChatGPT. There we go. So originally it was speciesism, which positions Homo sapiens at the pinnacle of a hierarchy. Oh my God, it already sounds like a professor, doesn't it? It's frequently employed to rationalize the exploitation of other animals for human gain. A new book contends that adopting an alternative perspective is crucial to secure the survival of Earth's ecosystem and ultimately humanity itself. Yeah, it's like someone's swallowed a dictionary, really. Let's see what it's done with speciesism, which places humans at the top of a hierarchy, often justifies exploiting other animals for our benefit. A new book argues that embracing a different viewpoint is essential to protect its ecosystem and ensure our own survival. It's actually made a little bit more concise as well, and also just sounds more like someone hasn't swallowed a dictionary. So it's just made it more friendlier, more approachable. Again, I've got my editors who are literally putting pages in one go, sometimes even whole chapters in there, and then reading through. Obviously, you still need that human being. You don't just accept it and go, it's done. You need to read through it and make sure you're happy with all the changes that's been made. But it's saving them so much time doing this. This is a big one. This is really good if you really want to sound approachable and friendly. Okay. It's a bit of a hack in the English language. If you want to sound approachable and friendly, you need to add contractions. Now, contractions are, instead of do not, you say don't, or will not, it'll be won't, or I am becomes I'm. So you want to add contractions. Again, something that some people use all the time when they're speaking. I see people on stage, professional speakers, by the way, paid keynote speakers, but they're using don't and I'm, and they're using that. I get them to start writing a book, and suddenly it's very formal. It's I am and do not. And it's like, you don't speak like that. I've seen you on stage. Why aren't you writing the way you speak on stage? They don't even realize they're doing it. They've changed just because they're writing a book. So again, sometimes we get manuscripts in, and it's just like, we can just make this entire thing sound more friendly and more them, just by adding contractions. But what my editors had to do is one by one put in contractions. Now they can literally put in sometimes even entire chapters, or half a chapter or a third of a chapter, and get ChatGPT or some other LLM to do that for them. So let's have a look at what it does for this. And it's brilliant. It's doing it. See, it's putting in don't instead of do not. It's putting in they've instead of they have. It's just going through and changing and putting in contractions. Okay. Again, you need the human being in the loop. You don't just accept it. You read through it. Sometimes you don't want a contraction. For example, imagine you're telling off your child because you're explicitly telling your child not to do something. At that point, you might say, do not leave your room, because that is more powerful than don't leave your room. So sometimes you don't want it contracted, and that is when our human editors, they'll read through and they go like, that's a contraction too far. I'm going to take that contraction out. I wanted to leave it as it was. Some contractions, in fact, let me actually I'm going to do a test. The most famous contraction I know that you shouldn't do is the famous, quote phrase, I think, therefore I am. You would never contract that. I think, therefore I'm doesn't even make sense. That's not even a complete sentence. You have to say some. If you just said, I think, therefore I'm, people will be waiting going, yes, you are what? I'm. That doesn't even make sense. That cannot be contracted. It needs to remain as I think, therefore I am. And then it has meaning. But I don't know. Let me just see what ChatGPT does with this. If I put, I think, therefore I am. I wonder if I put it, I'm just going to see, rewrite to add control. I want to see if it does it, or whether it's intelligent enough to know that it doesn't make sense. Let's see. Oh. See, there we go. Just goes to show that it did it. It didn't understand. But hang on, that has no meaning. I think, therefore I'm. What are you trying to say? That's not even a full sentence, So this is the limitations of all LLMs. And this is why I want to put people's fears to rest. There's a lot of people think, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I mean, there are certain areas, unfortunately, where it looks like, wow, it's going to take over. But most, especially what I'm seeing in my world, all it's doing is just making my editors, my designers, my formatters, my publishers, it's just making all these professionals' lives easier. They're just becoming far more efficient, and they're just happier now, because like things that took them a long time are now taking 50% of the time or even less, because they have these tools. But you still need them, as I've just demonstrated. That would not work. That wouldn't work. So you still need an editor to actually go, oh, one too many contraction there. That doesn't make sense. Let's remove it, but let's remove that contraction. But use it, add contractions in, and then read through. And you find that you just sound a lot friendlier. So those are just a few of them. Let me just come out of this. I want to show you. What are your thoughts on this? Have you used some of these prompts before? Maybe some of this like, oh, I know this, I've done this before. Or is there anything new that you've learned from this and thought, oh, I've never thought of using that? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I have used it, and I've been playing with it almost since it just came out. And I have all three. It's not that you have to be stuck in one
Oh,
LLM. I have ChatGPT, I have Gemini, and I have Claude. And each one I found has a specific thing that it does rather well. And so if I say I put in something to ChatGPT that I want it to review, or make more concise or more approachable, whatever, I'll take that and then I'll do the same in all three, and I'll see what comes up with the same prompt in all three. And invariably, it comes up with some kind of combination that is sort of magic. And then I add my own edit to it in the end. One of the things that I found is really important, especially when it comes to research, is that you ask the LLM in a prompt to provide citations and references,
oh
because
yes.
often what it will do is it's learning you so well, it'll make stuff up because it's what it thinks you want to hear. And so you have to kind of trust yourself and trust your instinct to say, did you make this up, or is this actual research facts, right? And
Yeah.
so it'll say, oh, and they'll be honest, oh, I made it up because I thought that's what you wanted to hear. So when it comes to research for yourself, if you're researching for your book, it's important to ask for those citations and references so that you can put those in as well. You can go to those citations and references. Often it'll provide a link, right? And you can double check and skim it and make sure that it's accurate information, because it's not always going to be accurate information. And AI requires human ingenuity and intellect
Yes.
in order to do what it does. So it's really designed to be an assistant, not to be a replacement. And I think
Exactly.
that,
It is. It's augmenting you. That's essentially
is
what it's augmenting. You can't, as you just seen in the very final demonstration, it didn't even understand that you can't contract I'm in that sentence, because
right.
now that sentence doesn't work. And yet it
Yeah.
was just like it followed the instruction. I think what you just said, something really important here, is the GPT stands for generative pre-trained transformer. The important bit is generative. It's generating the probability of what the next word will be. So it's a bit like if you've ever played the game as a kid, and you have to say one or two words, and then the next person says one or two words, and the next person, and just see where the story goes and what ends up happening to it. It's quite a fun game, because you start off with the dog, and the next thing you know, this dog's gone to China, and then it did this, and you're like, oh my god, because the story's just gone off with people adding in their own words. That's essentially what these LLMs are doing. So they
Yeah.
can make things up, because they're meant to be making things up, but sometimes they go a little bit too far in the making things up, and that's when they need reining in.
And you,
Sorry, go on, Henry Cameron. Sorry, go
I was
on.
going to say, you can have a real conversation with
Yes.
whatever the AI is that you're working with, and you can ask it questions about itself. You can ask it, where do you get your information? Is this from your training? Or I asked it one time, and by the way, it identified itself in a female form, getting back to what you said earlier about the
Yes.
and it actually named it. I said, if you could name yourself something other than I think it was Bard at the time, which became Gemini.
Gemini, yes.
If you could name yourself with a human name, what name would you give yourself? And it was Alice or something like that. So I started calling it Alice. We had this great conversation. And I asked, are you sentient? Do you feel things? Do you sense things? And it was very clear, not in the way that humans do, right? I asked it about creativity. Are you inherently creative? Well, not in the way that humans are creative. I rely on training and input in order to, I said, well, make me write a poem about a tree. And it did, in a moment, wrote a beautiful poem about a tree. But what was really interesting was that it formatted it in the shape of a tree. I said, I didn't tell you to do that. Where did that come from? Where did that input come from, right?
It's generating. So sometimes you may not have wanted that. So then you would do a prompt iteration.
That's
I
right.
don't need you to actually do it in the shape of a tree. I think that's how you iterate. Yeah, this is actually a good point regarding having a conversation with it. Something that I've learned to do with all the LLMs in the last few weeks is actually get it to interview me on what it needs to create something. So if I want to create, say, a LinkedIn newsletter, and I'll say, this is what I want to gain from it. Now I want you to ask me questions so you get enough information to do this correctly. That is brilliant, because now it starts asking me and say, okay, well, tell me what you do, tell me what your audience is, what are you trying to, and it literally, it's like it goes through an interview with you and it asks you questions on what it needs to do the best job possible, which just blows my mind. Whereas before it was like, you have to think of like, what context do I need to give it so it can do that? You can ask it, say, what context do you need to do this job properly?
And you can ask it, you can prompt it specifically to say, in whatever genre that you're writing, as if you were an expert in XYZ drama, genre, review this article, right? As if you were an expert in, and it'll give it that perspective, which is really great for feedback, when you're looking outside of your own realm.
I just have to say, Claire's done something amazing. You'll be so proud of her, Henry Cameron. She said, I've done that with marketing, asked it to be a marketing professional and asked me the questions it needed answering to create genius. And that's just amazing now. So now you can ask it, because sometimes you might miss things. I mean, if you ever train somebody, you think you've trained them really well, and then you realize there was like a glaring thing that you forgot to tell them, and your assistant's now been doing something wrong for the next 2-3 weeks. It happens to me. Joycey, bless her, she's in the background. There's sometimes where I've given her tasks and then she's been doing it wrong, but it was my fault. I left something out and I forgot that I'd left something out. So she's gone off to do a task, but hasn't been doing it correctly, but it's my fault because I didn't give her the right information. Well, with ChatGPT, you can ask it and say, tell me what you need from me so you can go and do this correctly, which is just, and then it can even ask, oh, please don't put me out of a job as a marketing consultant, bless you. Human in the loop. Still need you. Do you know what I mean? Still need you. This is what I mean. It's still, you're still going to have a job for a very long time to come. Don't ask me in 50 years' time, Katrina. I honestly don't know what the world's going to be.
I won't be here in 50 years' time, and I won't go.
Probably for the best for all of us, really, from the way things are going. But, certainly in the next, I would say 10 to 20 years, I don't think we're still going to need human beings in the loop. You need human beings at the top pulling the strings, but you're just going to be so much more efficient. That's all it is. Claire, you've got your hand up.
I'll just share the fun I had with it on Sunday morning.
Please do.
I've got a lot of audio courses on Insight Timer, and I was thinking, they'd make nice little books, just to chuck out on Amazon, not like a mega professional, just something that people might read and then they might come to me as clients, because I know other coach who does that. She's got lots of little books and she gets quite a lot of clients that way. So I thought, right, how can I convert this audio course into a book? So I don't know if you can use Word, and you can upload an audio file into Word and it will transcribe it. Not just speak into Word, you can upload an audio file. I didn't know that. I've been paying for Otter and Word can do it. So that's a subscription I've just ended. So that's what I did. First of all, put all the audios in, created the transcription of each of the audios of the course. And then I kind of gave ChatGPT quite a lot of instructions about converting this from an audio to more like a book form. Could it add 50% word wise into it to make it more like a book? gave it all these instructions, and literally it has written a book from this audio course. And when I read it, it does sound like me, because there's such a lot of, and this is the key, I think, is that, you know, that lady who commented about it not sounding like her, the more of you put into it. And I've made some of my own ChatGPTs. I use one that's called Unique Journey. It's got all the back end of my business in it and what I'm about and non-duality and 3 principles and blah, blah, blah. So it knows all that stuff about me already. And this book it created is just has blown me away. And it's a 30,000 word book.
There you go.
And it literally took me maybe a couple of hours, 3 hours at the most. Obviously, I need to, what I thought I'd do with it then, I thought I'd give it to a different AI to be the editor. So ChatGPT's written it, probably a good idea to hand it to a different AI to do the editing and see what that spits out. So, but it's just mind-blowing, because I've got 30 something of these. I've got 34 of these audio courses.
Oh God!
So once I've got the whole,
waiting there to be
absolutely, it's mad, really.
Waiting. It's fantastic. You should do it, you know, because I think of how many people have got, you know, things like that, or various courses lying around that can just be transcribed into a book, and it's easy to do now. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so let me show you. I think all of you have actually had calls with me, but in case somebody watches on the replay, I would love to speak to you. If you've got a book idea and you're thinking, is this a good book idea? I'll be brutally honest. Get on a book idea audit with me and we can talk about your book, see whether it fits what you're looking for. Some of you have been on a book idea audit with before. I know Stanley's just been on one recently. I've spoken to Alan, also Henry Cameron as well. And, you know, I hope you guys agree. I hope you actually got a lot from it, that it just made you realize where you are. And also, I am honest. If I don't think it's the right time, I say it's not the right time for you. You need to go and achieve X, Y, and Z before we get the book. Because I always say having an authoritative book, your manifesto out there, it explodes whatever it is you're doing. However, your business and you as a person need to be ready for that explosion. If you're not ready for it, it can actually have the opposite effect. So therefore, I'm very honest. I'll be able to go through your book idea, see whether it's a good idea for you, see whether you and your business or organization are in the right place for it. And only then, if it's right, that I can go through my programs and how long it takes, etc. So let me just quickly show you how you can do that. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so just give you an idea of some of the things that my clients have been able to achieve. They get into the media, they work with influencers, they end up on TV shows, all the things you really should think about doing if you want to get your mission out there in a big way. And this is just one of my awesome clients, Lillian, who published a book about 2 years ago now. And as you see, she says, you know, I was not an experienced author. I didn't go to school for writing, English literature, or journalism. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I had a lot of fears around, oh my God, I'm such an amateur. Am I going to make a fool out of myself? Am I going to embarrass myself in front of clients and future clients? It's a big one. I've seen some pretty incredible people come to me and suddenly they get imposter syndrome. I'm thinking, but you've achieved so much. But there's something about writing a book at this kind of level that makes people go, oh, am I good enough for this? And as Gizish says, you know, I took her through a step-by-step process that's digestible and manageable for any beginner or amateur writer. So I don't care what your skill level is at. The methodology I have will ensure that you write an amazing book that you'll be proud of. So do join me for a book idea audit. It's in 3 parts. First part, we audit your book idea. This is the most important thing. You'll be amazed how many people come to me with either a terrible idea, or B, a good idea, just not for them. And I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you if you fit into one of those. And that way you don't have to put any time and effort and potentially money into creating something that's not going to serve you. Okay. Part 2, we'll look at your current business or career goals, and we look to see if thought leadership is the right path for you. Caveat, it's not for everyone. Not everyone is designed to become a thought leader on their subject. So we will really look at whether you have the personality for it. And only if you fit the bill for part 1 and part 2, then we'll look at if the program, my program, the Thought Leader Ecosystem, can help. So let me just quickly show you how you can book one of those. All you have to do is go to here. Oh, it's almost time to restart. Not now. Reschedule. Go away another time. I definitely don't need any reschedule. Isn't that annoying? It's like I'm in the middle of a program. Oh, we need to do an update. Leave me alone. Why do you want to update my system while I'm doing this? There you go. So you just come to this link. I will make sure that's all sent out to you tomorrow when you get your workbooks. Do just watch the video. It's only 5 minutes, but it just goes into exactly what you can expect in the call with me. You'll be amazed how much we actually cover in 45 minutes. It doesn't sound like a long time, and yet we cover a lot of ground. And by the end of it, you'll certainly know whether your book idea is a good one, and if it is, what the next steps are, whether you need to wait for a while because you need your organizational business to get to a certain level, or whether you can move forward straight away. You will know what your first steps are. So just come here, you know how this works. You just book some time in and just fill in the details and book yourself in. So I would love to see you. Okay, so let me come out of this. Stop share. Okay, any last thoughts? Oh, Stanley's gone. Thank you, Stanley. I hope you got a lot from this. Really appreciate it. Any last thoughts? Yes, Alan.
Okay, first of all, I've always typed all my books.
Okay.
But I can't see my keyboard and my fingers have gone now, so I've no feelings to actually type anymore. So I've been trying to do speech to text.
Okay.
To create the next book.
Yes.
But it doesn't understand what I say. So I get a lot of, misinformation on there.
What are you using for speech to text?
I haven't a clue what it is. It's just one of those speech to text programs I discovered. So I can do speech to text and then I can get it to read it to me. But if I say something like and something, it says under or something like that. So it puts the wrong words in. It doesn't recognize my Lancashire accent very well.
Bless you. You don't. Your Lancashire accent is fine. You should see this
Right,
friend of mine who's a Geordie. Like I can understand you, but I can only understand my Geordie friend because I'm a Geordie. Otherwise, people struggle to understand it. Alan, it sounds to me that this is not a you issue. This is a software issue.
Right, but the point
Katrina's agreeing with me. It's a software issue. I use Otter, and that is around about 90% accurate, even with an accent.
Yeah.
So
my husband uses Dragon and gets good results with Dragon.
So got a Dragon fan here. I would say it's you have to remember software is
yeah, but that's not the point I'm getting at. The point is I am now dictating it.
Yes.
And then I have Copilot to kind of polish it up. Yeah.
Okay.
And it keeps saying everything is passive. I've got to do it into active voice.
Okay.
So I ask it to do active voice and I read it and I think, oh my goodness, that's not me. That's somebody else talking. That's not how I talk. And I don't like it.
But do you normally talk in passive? Is that how you're?
That's the way that I talk naturally to this text to speech thing. That's how I talk.
Well, I mean, you have to remember, software is there to help you out. It's not taking over, Alan. So if you like it here, that worries me a little bit. I don't think I've never, when I speak to you at these events, I never think of you as someone who's always speaking passively. So I would check whether you actually are speaking passively or not. It's very natural for most people when they're speaking as a human being to be in the active voice. It's quite unnatural for most people to speak in a passive voice.
Things it picks up are when I say, I have to, I have been, I have, something, things like that. It says that's very passive. And yet that is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And that's how, yeah.
But that's fine. But you don't have to, again, human in the loop. You don't have to accept every single thing it gives you. You can actually say, no, that bit is okay. It could pick up something that you go, actually, that would be better as active. Let me change that. But then another thing, you're like, no, it sounds better as passive. In the last example I give you with the contractions, it contracted, I think, therefore I'm. That doesn't even make sense. So you can override that and say, that doesn't make sense. You're being silly here. You shouldn't have contracted that. That is, I think, therefore I am. It's the same
contractions is the one I have a big problem with, because I used to get told off at school for writing can't, don't, won't.
See, that's
It
where
was
I
like,
think it
you
comes
have to
from.
write it out.
I think that's where it comes from. I think that's why people, like I said, I've seen people, keynote speakers on stage, very professional. They sound amazing, and yet they still sound warm because they're using contractions. As soon as they start writing a book with me, it's like suddenly they regress back to being that 12-year-old at school being told you can't write in contractions. And I'm like, I'm not your headmistress. You can actually write in contractions and I won't tell you off. You actually need to sound like who you are on stage, because that's what people associate you with. If you sound completely different in your book, they may even think that you've got a ghostwriter or something. Or now that you've used AI, which you have, but you want to use AI in a way that people still feel your soul in the book, rather than what those people complain about. Oh, it's just AI generated. I can tell it's AI generated.
And you can't hurt its feelings. You can say things like, that's ridiculous. That sounds nothing like me, piss off. And it's not going to be hurt. That's the beauty of not having a human assistant, but having an AI assistant. It's like, it'll take it as, I'm so sorry that wasn't adequate. Let's find a better way. I mean, it's lovely that way. You can vent as well.
Exactly.
All
right.
I've got to run.
Yes, I've got to go as well.
Yeah,
thanks. Alan, has that helped you a little bit? Just get it to read it back and just accept what you want to accept. You don't have to accept every single suggestion. Even my editors, my human editors, when they make changes in a manuscript, they do track changes. And then my author, I tell them to go through the track changes and agree them. But the ones they don't agree with, to leave, and then let's have a chat about it. And we get on a Zoom and we talk about what they disagreed with. So even with a human editor, I'm not expecting my authors just to bow down in deference, be like, oh, well, the editor says it needs to be this way. That's it. You're the author. The book ultimately stops with you. So you need to be happy with what my editor has done to your manuscript. So you always have control. If you don't like, if it's saying that, you need to come out of active voice in a particular place, and you say, well, no, that's how I sound, override it. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah. Nothing's written in blood or stone.
Exactly. The book stops with you, Alan. You know you better than anybody else. So it's just there to help you. Maybe sometimes you are falling into a passive voice when you should have been in the active voice. You go, oh, I didn't realize I'd done that. And then it's good. It's like, oh, let me change it to active voice. But the rest of the time, just ignore it. Just say, no, you're wrong. Leave me alone. I'm right. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got a lot from this, and hopefully see you at a future forum.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Do it again. Bye.
Bye.